Crazy Camp Life, votes, and tribals. The life of a survivor is more than you see on TV. So if you need the scoop on island survival, crack a coconut, put on some rice, and let's spill the immunity. Hey guys, welcome to the show. I am Bree, host with my two other hosts that I just love to hang out with. We get excited every week to talk about Survivor, but have no plan, and it will be very apparent. But that's just the way it is. Alex and Brandon are here. Hi guys, how are you?
I'm wonderful. I mean, our plan is the same as a lot of these players' plans.
Yep.
And it's just go with it.
Just go with the flow.
It's moving so fast. Alex, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Great Survivor episodes. Really liking the season, so pretty hyped.
So good.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of people talking about like, oh, I think there were other, seasons that were better. I think we're still, we're always going to compare last season to this season in Australian Survivor. And my dog's just made an appearance, so I've got a lot going on here. But I think that you really can't compare. Last season was just all returnees pretty much. And, they were just spectacular. And that's not going to be every season. We're not going to get that all of the time. But for all of these newbies, what's your thoughts on the newbies? Do they feel like newbies? Are they all newbies? Or do they are they bringing in a little bit of expertise? Like they paid attention. They understood the assignment.
To me, the George seasons, because two of the last three have been George seasons. And so with that said, I think that George was on this top tier in the stratosphere category of Survivor. So with that said, it's going to be a great season. And you had Liz that kind of joined him in that ranks a little bit towards the end, or at least played up that. So to me, I think there's so many great players on this season, even though there's some stragglers, but it's a more even keel list of great players. And to me, it feels kind of like a returnee sees like a second chance for some of these players. Alex?
Yeah, I definitely think that they're, for everybody playing their first season, it does seem like they have a lot of experience in the game.
Yeah.
And Sandra said this on her season when she was on with Nina. I think it was season 9 of Australian Survivor. She said Australians love blindsides and it's very physical. And I've realized ever since she said that, I said, man, these Australians like really love the blind side. Like they go for the blind side when it's like not even necessary, i.e. Mark, right? Like they just really like this aggressive play, which I really like too. I like to see it because it makes it really interesting. You don't have these kind of stagnant alliances that just, stick together for the entire game. So it definitely seems like that. There's just a lot of action, a lot of backstabbing going on, right?
Yeah. They don't care about feelings like we do in America. They're like, you know what? When you signed the contract for Survivor, you gave JLP your heart because they could care less about, how you're going to feel after they just get done ripping you apart, i.e. with the Mark situation with them voting out V. They're like, you shouldn't be too mad at us for voting out your number 2. You should join with us. And whether that's stupidity or not, that's their thought process.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting that they did go for V. I really liked her as a player. It was really I felt really bad when she left, but she had such a great attitude. She's like, great gameplay. I think we saw other people voted out later on that weren't so gracious. But she was just like, good on you. You caught me. You got me. It is what it is. And I'm going to move forward and go have a hamburger now while you guys are starving. And so it was hard. It was a real strike against Mark. And I think Mark is not the invisible hand anymore. We're pretty obvious with that. What did he call himself? The Iron Fist.
He's not even that.
Yeah, he's not even that because it's not working. Yeah, it's not working. But I don't count him out. That's my thought with him. He is too smart and too aware of everything. Even though things haven't gone his way. And I think things haven't gone his way because he hasn't had a real true alliance to rely on, right? He's having to pull in these other people that he's not tight with and trying to get them to go. And it almost worked. He almost had it. He almost could have. There's some times where he, could have succeeded in what he was doing, except for just somebody randomly saying, "I'm going to vote somewhere else." So, but I think it woke him up with the Viola blindside. I think that really hit him hard. And so I really like him still.
I do like him, but I just think Mark has completely destroyed his game. I mean, I'm glad I picked Eden over Mark because it seemed like Mark was going to be the more intellectual player. I feel like he's just been playing from emotion, though. Like ever since V got off, because if you actually look at it, I mean, so, I'll talk about Caroline here in a minute, but, it was Caroline, Eden, Kitty, Jaden. That's 4 right there, right? And he's trying to go against this alliance, which it really doesn't make any sense for him to do that. And he just seems like V got voted off, and then he didn't see that the numbers were still over there, regardless if he, joined them or not. Which for me, like Mark being an emotional player, you wouldn't expect that, but he's just like bloodthirsty, wants revenge, and is ignoring the numbers. So it's been really weird to see Mark kind of play so emotionally and want to get this revenge when the numbers just don't, aren't there at all, right? And yeah, go ahead.
I do think that they did, Kitty and Caroline and Eden did play that vote exactly when they should have, because I think that next vote Mark was going to do the same thing they did to them. So the get or get got, as Caroline's been talking about. I mean, it's sad that they had to do it so early because there's still an amazing amount of gameplay happening right now. And at the end, it might be a bunch of stragglers like a Jaden and 2 others because of how hard these players are playing right now. To have to make that move to get V out this early is not American Survivor. This is full-blooded Australian Survivor at its finest.
When you brought that up, like it makes me think, is Jaden going to be that goat that we bring along to the end? Because honestly, if you think about it, even though he's such a beast, right? And we're going to talk about these challenges that they've been playing in that I think are amazing. But if you brought him along with you, you could almost guarantee he's going to win most of the individual immunities if it is a physical challenge. So you're going to maybe not win it for yourself, but you're going to keep it out of the hands of your opponents so you can get rid of them. So even though he's a challenge beast and will probably do extremely well in all of these physical challenges, as we had later on, as we head after merge and it's all individual, he'd be someone to keep around because has no strategy. Just tell me what to do. And that's all he's, you know what I mean? Like that's him. And he's such a nice guy. Like he's great to have around camp.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Go ahead, Alex.
Well, I was just to say, Jaden is slowly becoming like a favorite on the season because he is just so happy-go-lucky. He's so physically strong. He's got like that Jonathan aura where it's just like, oh my gosh, this guy's winning everything. And Jonathan had a way different game. He wasn't so happy, kind of go lucky. He's a little bit more kind of serious about things. But yeah, I was just going to say Jaden is like becoming a favorite just because he is so he's doing what he likes very, very well. And he's leaving everything else. He doesn't even care about it.
Right. Yep. And he's going to be one of those where I think there's going to be so many people during the merge that we're about to hit here in about 3 or 4 episodes, it looks like, where you'd want to get him out first. But I think there's way too much I want to get you out revenge game going on that, he might slide to 5th place by the time it's all said and done and win, a couple immunities in a row. And then maybe he does see himself in the final 3.
I think he'd be great in the final 3 because he has no strategy. He's the one to bring with because I don't think you can win Survivor just being an immunity, like really crushing immunity challenges. I don't think that's everything in the game. I think strategy plays a big part of it. They're going to like him, but they're not going to say he had the winning game. Right. So he's a safe bet to bring with. Yeah. And, I would try to befriend him and stay on his side right away so that you can, he'll work with you. You want that power with you to take those challenges away from the other players. You know, if you want to get Kirby out, you want to put someone up against her who stands a big chance of keeping her from getting that immunity necklace, right?
Mhm.
So I think that would be the smart play, is to bring them along. You may not win it yourself, but you're to keep it out of the hands of your opponents that you want to vote off and keep them vulnerable as much as possible.
And I said this last week that Jaden was already a 0% chance winner. And I might be taking that back, because the only 3 people I can think of that, well, there are still 3 people out there that I think could have played a worse game than he has. And he hasn't really played a strategic game, mind you, but again, that strength game that we haven't seen anybody win at. And that is probably Raymond at this time. We haven't heard from him too much. And then, of course, Hurricane Kelly, like who knows if she's playing any kind of strategy right now. I did think she had some good decisions and not telling them any information, but I don't know if she even got any information to tell. So it's going to be very interesting to see how, not to change the subject entirely away, but to see Hurricane Kelly, see what she does. And I'm so confused with her. I'm so confused.
I mean, but Jaden isn't playing a bad game because he has realized the numbers in every. I mean, hasn't he been on the right side of every single vote?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because he's like, unlike Mark, who's playing from emotion, isn't reading the numbers. Jaden's like, I'm just going to go with the numbers, which that's a Sandra strategy. It's always be on the right side of the numbers, right? And his alliance with Kitty and Caroline. It's kind of weird. You wouldn't expect him, but it seems like he's taking directions directly from those 2, right? And then with Eden, that's 3, and with them is 4, and you know that's kind of your core 4 there. So that's just very interesting. I'd say this too about Caroline. Caroline's freaking me out. She's got like this evil vibe now. When she was talking about voting off Viola, she looked into the camera. She had like this 1,000-yard stare, and she's like, quote. I've delivered thousands babies,
and the baby girl,
and I was like, oh my gosh, it was like shiver down my spine. She's like this, I don't know, she's giving me evil vibes.
I definitely wanted to talk about her. I definitely wanted to like bring her up because I really want to like her.
Yeah.
You know, I see a strong boss, powerful woman who's older, and I really want to like her. I like Kitty. I'm not crazy about Kitty. I'm like, dude, you're strong. You know, look at her. She's built, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud. I think she's really cool. And I think she's playing a much better game than Carolyn, to be honest with you. But I don't like Carolyn. Would I want her to deliver babies all day? Because man, you know, things are going to get done and she's going to have things the right way. All good. But with Survivor, I can't find those redeeming qualities in her right now. And I think she just is getting worse and worse. And the thing that gets me the most is the look on her face when they're reading votes, and she is so smug. And I can't, it drives me bananas. I was writing notes on her and I said, she looks like the cat that ate the canary. That's what she, like, this smugness, like, and it's just this, you know, and I don't like it. And I'm not crazy about her because of that. I want to see kindness from her because she delivers babies. I would think that she's got this empathic kind of feel to her, right? She is going to, you know, feel your pain and relate to you and have a little bit of warmth and kindness in her. I ain't getting any of that. And so right. I can't find anything. Can you find anything to like about her right now?
I can. She's the reason why V went home. She overheard the conversation with Mark and V, and that's the reason why she went home. And so I think that just her awareness as a midwife, and again, not to use the job too much, but I do expect a midwife to have more. I would not hire her as a midwife. Yes, things would get done, but I would be, as the husband watching this whole thing, be like, oh gosh, is my wife's life in jeopardy because the sinister midwife is looking at her weirdly. So I do think that she needs to hide the smug and breed, just to make sure. I'm going to be looking at my face to see if I look smug, because I'm now intimidated by you. So we're gonna judge it. But I like Carolyn, and I think that she is watching the game better than anybody thinks she's watching the game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at the Mark vote, right? The first time that they voted off Viola, or even the second time, Kitty and Caroline are two ladies, and then they kind of combined with Sarah and then the other girl who never talks at all. What's her name? Riri, right. And then Mark just goes over to them and is like, here's what you guys are going to do. He just like directs, and he just assumed that they would want to do what he wants, without realizing like these two women, right, really like Kitty because Kitty is really nice. She's pretty. She's built like, and they really connected with her. And it was such an oversight by Mark to not think that these two women who are a pair, Riri and Sarah, would want to go with the other two women who are a pair. And he just assumed, oh, they're going to go with me. Why would you assume that? So it's just very weird. But yeah, I do think that if they, want to break up that alliance, Carolyn is the linchpin between that. But it's seeming, because she is not a physical threat, she isn't being seen as, as somebody to be voted off by other people. And like I said, she's got Jaden in her pocket too. So she's in a good position. Very surprising that she's leading that tribe. And Eden too, you never hear from the guy.
Yeah, what happened to Eden? Where did he go? He hopped on he's at a double feature somewhere else that's playing in town that he hasn't seen in a while. And we got one, I think, out of the whole 3-episode run, we got one movie reference from him.
Right. And it's weird too, because I see him as like, well, he was, the person that I picked, but he's just not driving that alliance, or he's never even coming up in the conversation. And it seems like every time something difficult comes up, he just removes himself. He's like, even when Sarah was talking to, I think it was Mark and Kitty at the same time, Eden was there. She's like, what's happening? We'll talk about this. Sarah just like freaking out and trying to expose everybody's plan. And then Eden's just like, and literally just walks away. And I was like, maybe this is a good strategy. I always had this strategy on Survivor. What if I just hid in the bushes the entire time and nobody even knew I was there? Is that a good strategy? That might be what Eden's doing.
I think that and I hope he is doing that. I really like Eden, and I think that this is the perfect time for him to hide in some bushes, because he doesn't want to be a canary with Caroline and get eaten here pretty soon, which I don't think is going to happen. I think that's a pretty strong allegiance, those three. Strong enough to watch out for what Mark is doing, because I think we all had Mark pretty high on, he's a great chance, the probability is high in this guy, and now I think he's sank these last 3 episodes because of all the missed moves. So it's probably better right now for Eden not to make any moves, because things are going his way right now.
And I don't know what the relationship is like between him, Eden, and Mark. They don't show it at all. And you would think that might be a bridge, because they said that they both feel like they both play similar games, but you never hear it in the conversation of like, hey, Eden, are you with me? Are we still together? So sorry.
Yeah, we haven't seen that relationship between the two of them much at all after the first set of couple episodes, which I thought was surprising as well. That was like, why aren't these two talking more? And did something happen that we don't know about? Or did, I have a feeling, now this is my gut feeling on this. I think the Val and Viola thing, the V's, I think that might have already caused a rift before they swap tribes and all that other stuff between Eden and Mark. And I think that might be the reason he's pulling away and so eager to just like not include him or feel the need to go talk to him about things or whatever. But I think I hope that we see them connect again and kind of get an idea of where that partnership is at this point, if there even is one. But I don't think that Eden wants to get in the middle of anything, but he wants to be aware of everything. I think that's Eden's play. I think he's still really paying attention, really following what everyone's doing, but not making any waves, because he has seen how the dynamic has changed when you have these tribe swaps where everything gets mixed up. I was like trying to think of, it's like putting everybody in and just like shaking a jar up and like opening it and watching how it all spills out, kind of like Jack's, which was a game back in the day where you would just put them all in a thing and then throw them out on the table and see where they all landed. And so the only one that didn't land randomly was Ray. He got to pick. We didn't mention that before, but he did get to choose. But he couldn't choose, and he had to choose right away. He was like the third person. So he was like
a tarp and is what his choice was.
Exactly.
That would have been fun to watch, to see what he would have done had he'd been given the chance that he was hoping JLP would get, and that's the choice between the two.
Yeah.
But
I think he gets along with Kelly so well, though. So I think I think he was pretty happy with where he ended up.
Wasn't it? When was it? Because he was kind of out of Kelly's good graces sometime during that season, because Kirby had pointed out that he's now over on Club Ferris. And she was like, "Oh, Raymond, I thought we were good." And then that's when he said, "Well, there's reasons why I did what I did." So I don't know if they were in good graces before the swap, or if that was after the swap. I think it was before the swap, right? Because Kelly had just returned back to her rebel tribe.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. But I think that Ray and Kirby kind of were on the outs, but I think Ray is still relatively close to Kelly. And because he's going to her and asking her, like, what are you doing? What's going on? And she's like, I don't know anything. She said, "I'm dumb," I think is what her comment was. And I had a glimpse. If we want to talk Kelly, I had a glimpse, but I think it was a happy accident. I don't think it was strategic. Oh, I want to give Kelly the benefit of the doubt so much.
Okay,
but
don't do it yet.
I can't. But when she came up with her buff with something inside the buff and like sticks it in her bag, and people saw that, I'm like, that would have been such a smart play, because everyone thought she had an idol. Like, they all think she has an idol now. And that was brilliant. But I don't think that was her intention. It was a happy accident for her. Unfortunately. I don't know.
Well, that was kind of a weird vote too, right? So Ferris has an idol, right? He found another idol. They go to tribal council, and Kirby's coming after them and say, "Hey, let's have this truce. Let's just get off one." And I'll say this too: it's very confusing that they have Titans versus rebels, and then they switch up the tribes and they still call them Titans and rebels. And so you have like OG Titans, OG rebels, and it's like, what?
Confusing.
So I just call them red and blue now. Okay. It's just you're going to change the tribes, swap the tribes, and they have these kind of monikers that go along with their identity and personality. When they switch tribes, the tribes names should change. I'll just say that. Change it to like Booga Booga or whatever you have to change it to. Okay. But so that they go to tribal, and then it was very.
Can you say that in your Australian accent? I've missed your Australian accent for the last 2 weeks. You haven't used it yet.
I'll find an appropriate.
Okay,
time.
good.
Yeah, I'll use it. Toasties. Oh, yes. That's my favorite one. Toasties always throws me for a loop. I'm like, what? I'll say this though: we did have beans on toast the other day. Never had beans on toast. Pretty good.
Really?
Pretty good. Australia. Yeah, it's pretty good actually.
Oh,
I was pretty hungry, but beans on toast, I was like, who would eat that? But it makes sense because the beans are kind of mushy. You have the toast, which is crispy. You just eat toast alone. That's kind of gross. If you just
what kind of beans
alone,
did you have?
That's my question. What kind of beans?
It was just like baked beans or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to look into that. What are the official type of beans that you do with your beans?
And the
toast?
bread.
Maybe we'll
Bread's
have
important too.
A taste test. We can
Sourdough.
do Vegemite, and we can do beans on toast.
Oh, let's do it next week. I'll purchase some. I'll do sourdough with black beans.
Okay.
I don't think that's right.
We got to find out what it is.
So okay, back to the vote. So it's the four, Aline, Ferris, Garrick, and Raymond, right? And then Kirby's having this insurgency with Valeria and Winna and who's the last person? Charles, right? And very interesting because for whatever reason, Ferris didn't pick up the vibe that it was going to be Garrick. And Aline saying it, Garrick saying it, but Ferris was just in complete disbelief about it. And it seemed pretty obvious that it was probably going to go that way, but I didn't expect, them to team up with Kirby because she is such a loose cannon. They kind of hinted at that, like, oh, can you trust Kirby? Is she actually one to trust? But it makes sense that they would want to vote off Garrick because it is like the right-hand man. They're trying to break up the alliances. And I felt that Kirby's alliance is just kind of like hodgepodge. It's like Kelly, loose cannon, Scotty, he's very loyal. He's played a very loyal game to Kirby, but it just kind of seemed like, Ferris's alliance seemed very, very tight, but I guess that's why they wanted to break it up.
And I think that Ferris does undermine women. I think strategically, I just don't see him playing a King George type game, since we compared him earlier. That George was all about working very well with females, and Ferris, his number one guy is Merrick.
Garrick. And very masculine guy. Yep.
Yeah. So I think that Ferris, to help his game out, he has to align himself with some female, and maybe at the swap or maybe at the merge, they work well with Kitty and Caroline and Eden. I don't know. I don't see that happening, but he's having a hard time figuring out the female situation, I think.
Yeah. There was something that they said, and I can't remember. I don't want to miss going over what Sarah did in the middle episode, but there was something that was said at camp. And yeah, my brain, and I literally just watched it this morning, so I should remember what it is. But there was something that was said that gave them the impression, the three Titans, the impression that Ferris would turn on them very quickly. Even if they joined forces with them, they would still get picked off. I can't remember.
It was because the Ferris, Garrick, Eileen, Raymond alliance is 4. The other alliance, Kirby, Scotty, the other person, right, are 3. And so they wanted to weaken this 4 alliance, because then it's 3, 3, and 3.
Yep.
Which is smart. I mean, kind of from their perspective, because then they could vote off Kirby next time, because she is such a threat and driving the game so much. So that was kind of, I think, the logic behind the vote for Charles and Valeria and Winna. Yeah. But I don't know if that's what you were kind of mentioning. Well, but I think that is why they ended up leaning into that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was right at that time when they were talking about that. But there was something else that somebody said, something about they threw so-and-so under the bus, or they got rid of someone. And I thought they felt that they would betray them faster as well if they went with them than if they went with the 3, which was Kirby. And I also think Kirby's demeanor is definitely just more subdued, even though she's playing hard. And I think she has to with Ferris. I think she can't play soft at this point, and she can't back away. She has to come as strong as Ferris is coming.
Neither side can right now. It's on both tribes right now.
Yeah, it's happening all across the board. But I think Kirby's way of treating people that aren't in her inner circle, like the Scott and well, she's got Riri, but she's on the other team right now, on the other tribe. So Kelly, I think it's just the other one. Kelly, yeah. And I think it's just the way Kirby is, that she understands, and that we'll go back to coaching. And I think we've talked a little bit about their past, like Carolyn and being a midwife, and I think Mark being in the political world and stuff. I think that with Kirby being a coach, she has to be able to work with all the players and meet them where they are, right? Yep. So how I would treat one person that I'm coaching and how I treat another person could be completely different, because I need to motivate and I need to work on how that, we're all motivated in different ways by different things. And Kirby knows how to bend and adapt to all of those personalities. And I don't think Ferris is, which leads right back to what you were saying, Brennan, that he doesn't listen to the women. He's not as in tune with them. Where Kirby is like, I know how to work with all of you. And I think they feel that. I think they feel heard and appreciated with Kirby, and they don't feel that with Ferris. Ferris is a little more barky and doesn't really pay attention to the women. Like, just come along with me. I don't need to explain myself to you. Just listen to me. Right. So I think that's the thing. I do want to take a moment, unless you guys have something more to add to that. I want to take a moment and talk about Sarah, because that was the middle episode. That was the episode 8. And boy, we talked at the beginning about how we felt like some of these players had already played before because they were being so strategic and smart about things. And then we get someone like Sarah, who literally could have been mic'd and broadcasting all of everybody's business to everybody, and just not being aware of how the game is played. I always tell the truth, she says. And it was just poor strategy.
Yeah.
She sunk
Well,
her own
to me,
battleship.
to me, it like came out of a place of like pure desperation. And so I did think it was, I think if she maybe held people's feet to the fire a little bit more, but like in that situation where she went up to Mark and Caroline and said, like, you told me you were going to vote him out. Like, she just exposed the whole plan to everybody. You know, that was out, like I said, out of a place of just like pure desperation. Like, she knows she's going home. She's not hearing her name. And you've seen people do this of like blowing it all up. And Kirby has done that a little bit where she like kind of blows up the plan and exposes everything a little bit. So to me, it was just like an act of pure desperation and trying to put all the cards on the table so people would be honest. But she never pointed it back at like Mark or like she was just trying to wear the numbers and trying to go there instead of taking agency and maybe crafting her own plan. And it was interesting too that Riri ended up betraying her too, right? And voting with them to get her out? Or no, she voted for Mark.
She voted for Mark.
Yeah, she voted for Mark. Yeah. Because she was completely out of the loop too. She's like, I hope this vote counts. And it didn't.
Yeah, loose lips sink ships, and that's exactly Sarah's game. She was very reactive, trying to figure out who she should trust. Found out that in her loose lipness went to Kitty, and then she was like, "Oh, well, Kitty's not telling." Well, no crap. Kitty's not telling you the truth. She's on a different tribe, and somebody's lying. So I tell you what, I think who saved their game with Sarah was Mark. I think Mark played that very diplomatically in making sure that he stuck to his guns, saying, "Hey, I'm not going to rat on anybody, but I'm not going to say that I'm lying to you or whatever it was." So I think everybody was playing the cards. It looked like Kitty, whenever Sarah walked up to her, Kitty was kind of, for the first time in the game, unsure of what to say about what Sarah was coming up, what information Sarah was giving her. So even though to me she seemed like, okay, you're detecting BS, I don't know if Sarah ever detected that. And say la vie.
People lie on Survivor?
Can you believe that?
What?
I know.
No.
It's the craziest thing.
I in 40,000 seasons, because I don't know how many there've been, but you know, I've never seen anyone lie before.
Yeah.
Well, ever since Tobias got voted off, she was just kind of heartbroken, lost, didn't know what to do, and yeah.
Are we ready to say Sarah just got voted off, right?
Sarah's gone, man. She dug her own grave. Like at the end, they were like, we're not going to split votes. Just all go on Sarah. Like she sunk herself so bad. Yeah. Like she was all confused and like, I don't know who to believe. And everyone's lying to me and all this stuff is going on. And it's like, but you created that situation. You did it to yourself, because I don't know if she would have gone home had it been a tie. And I don't know. But she did it to herself, and she shot herself in the foot basically with that. And, I just thought it was so amateurish at this point in how many seasons that have been out there to watch. I mean, your grandmother died. Say your grandmother died. Like we've seen it since season 4 or 5 or whatever. So.
And if you're going to play a game where you are exactly right, Alex, whenever, what was it, Tobias, was that her boy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whenever he went out, that's when she was like, well, who do I trust anymore? Anyways, whenever whomever it was that came up to her and say, hey, like you're being lied to by this person, instead of going to go talk to the person, go find out that information, you have to do one of two things. One is just put your trust in somebody, regardless of having to, especially ask in front of the other person who's also lying to you. Like, you don't do that. You separate the people, you find out the truth. And second, you kind of do it. Boston Rob has said this over and over again. And then he did so on the one where he was like the professor guy on that Island of the Idols, is, make sure that when you are talking to somebody, ask them a question that you already know the answer to. And she was not phrasing any of her questions in a way that says, hey, I know something. I'm not going to tell you what I know, but I'm going to ask you the question to see if you're going to tell me the truth. And she did not do that at all. So there's a Boston Rob piece of help you out if you're ever going to play this game. Ask a question that you already know the answer to. And if she would have done that, this would have gone a lot better for her.
This is something that you learn as a parent. If you've had kids and they're older and they've hit the teen years, you know this strategy quite well. You always ask the question that you know the answer to, Or if you don't know the answer to it, you pretend that you already know everything there is to know about it, and make them believe that. And then they will start spilling the beans or the tea, as it might be.
Bree, this is an example. Bree, how do you feel about Caroline?
Well, I think I have to agree with how you feel about her, Brandon.
Lies.
I feel the same way you feel about her.
The same way you feel.
Yeah.
Works.
It works. You just got to play it off. And so Sarah didn't have a clue on it. She did not go to the right people. She did not put trust in anyone. Who do you trust on Survivor? You don't trust anybody on Survivor, but you take your best bet. Yep. And that's how you get through the show. That's how you get to the end, is just being smarter and strategizing. Excuse me. So let's talk about that final tribal with Ferris, the Ferris and Kirby showdown.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, did Garrett get blindsided. And Aileen was just like, I told you.
I feel like Aileen would do much better on American Survivor. You know, she's playing much more the American Survivor approach.
Yep.
You know, and she's actually the only one who's paying attention to the numbers and is like, I feel like playing a logical game detached from emotion. And like you said, you know, because she was with she's just counting the numbers. Okay, well, Ferris has the numbers, so I'm going to go over here. And then even on her vote, she said, Kirby, I didn't vote for you. Let's talk. Because she even anticipated, which I don't know if it was just like what they were saying, or Kirby's like, you know, Kirby had, again, a kind of this maniacal, very, I don't know, just like, yeah, like how she was smirking at Ferris was just very villainous, right? And very, you know, confrontational.
Of Sarah Lacina, I think.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. What a great, like, reference. Brandon nailed it on the head. Sarah and Kirby. Didn't see it till you said that, but man, I was wondering who she reminded me of. You nailed it with that.
I see her, and I see Sarah right now, the season she won. I don't see the one where she's kind of like, okay, I'm in this middle place and she gets voted out. I think Kirby knows how to play this game pretty well, and I'm excited for it. I think also Ferris, I think, really hurt his game, of course, with Eileen, not only not listening to Eileen, but if Eileen is smart at all, she'll see that, okay, Ferris is not a guy who will give anybody else that idol. Because what an opportunity he had to give Merrick that idol and to show some kind of allegiance to somebody and sacrifice. I don't know if Ferris has that sacrificial lamb inside him to be able to do that. And I think Eileen just wants to jump to a non-sinking ship. And she might be Team Kirby here in this next episode for the rest of the game.
Well, she's tried to drive the vote multiple times, and every time it seems like she's failed. People just don't want to listen to her.
Right. And so Eileen is not, I don't think she was necessarily Team Ferris. She was more like, let's get everybody together, but I'll just happen to vote this way for right now. I think she's very much could lean the Kirby way. And it maybe not even that. Maybe she jumps the Kitty, Caroline, Eden here when they merge together and she's still there because she is looking for kind of that allegiance to somebody. No one's listening to her. You got that exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
She's like the unfun Jake.
Or maybe Michelle then.
Yeah.
Michelle Fitzgerald. Because that's the unfun Jake.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, maybe she is from Australia. I was looking at her profile, and she might, I guess, be from Australia, but she just seems American. She doesn't have like a thick Australian accent. She seems like she's American to me. But yeah, like I said, I feel like she's playing a logical game. She's not really aligned with anybody. Definitely not her and the guy, Ferris Raymond. You know, I'm kind of glad that, Garrick didn't really add much. You know, he was just kind of Ferris's number two. Which is like an interesting thing, too, that you're seeing on a lot of these seasons. And say, don't get out the person who's actually a threat. Get out their number two. Right. And to me, that seems kind of weird. Like, if you have the opportunity to get Kirby off, like they try to get Kirby off, if you have the opportunity to get the big player off, why not get them off?
Especially if they're
Is it just because then that extra two goes to somebody else and becomes their, and they don't want to take too many.
Yeah, I didn't understand that strategy. Why would you take out? I mean, if you go with Coach, you kill the head of the snake and the body withers and dies, right? So why would you take Garrick? But I do I think they really were worried that Ferris had an idol that he would play for himself. And so that's why they weakened him by taking Garrick out, which I thought was smart. And Garrick was really angry that last episode. He was really like, he was at camp, he was starting stuff and saying crap to Kirby and just being like, you know, you really betrayed me. You really betrayed me. He's a little butthurt right now, you know? And so I think it was a smart move for Kirby to say, yeah, let's Kirby with a Y, not with an I. She'll make sure you know that. But I thought it was a smart move.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I knew Ferris was going home because if nobody talks, if you don't see somebody for many episodes and then all of a sudden they're being highlighted and they're sharing their backstory, and then I'm like, okay, this person's going home. You know what I mean? And that was Ferris. He never really got airtime, and then all of a sudden he's Kirby. I hate, get her out, and she betrayed me so many times. And I said, Ferris has never talked this much. He's in danger.
And I think this number 2 thing makes a little bit of sense to me in the way that, you know, if they were to target Ferris, you know, the idol would be played and there's not as big of a blindside, I don't think, with that. So I think the number 2 strategy is actually that might be heads up play right there. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you see a lot on Australian Survivor, but I think that's also because they just really like the blind side. Like I said, they do blind sides even when it doesn't benefit them. They just get too antsy. They're like, oh, I gotta mix it up. It's like everybody's playing the last part of the game from the jump. And it can't overstate it enough. Like the dynamics are so different because there are so many people.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, and maybe you have to break up these larger alliances and you have to really mix it up a lot more. Just because of the amount of people. So,
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, aren't they all blindsides, to be honest with you? If you don't see it, you really don't see it coming until you're getting down to the, you know, fewer people. And I mean, unless you're just really the one that's the outsider, it's going to be a blindside. They don't want you to know. With idols in play and all these other things, especially on the US version, they're never going to want to tell too much because there's so many, like, oh, you could have some sort of a advantage or an idol. There's 10,000 idols. Almost everyone on the tribe has one now. And then you got the shot in the dark. Like, it's like not who has an advantage or an idol, but who doesn't. Like we got like 2 choices this week, right? So, but I think you have to play the game always keeping your cards close. And I think that's the best way to play, right? They're not going to say everything to everybody. And then they do this thing, which is what the viewers get, where we don't see those last minute conversations. So we're never really sure how it's going to go. And then what was the Riri vote for Mark?
Well, I think she was under the impression that they were going to vote Mark off. Like Jaden and all of them were going to vote Mark. And so she was hoping because they had a close relationship, Kitty, and them had a close relationship with Sarah, Kitty and Caroline with Sarah and Ree, that they were going to. So I think they did keep Ree in the dark on that and say, hey, vote for Mark, as a backup vote. And she's smart. I mean, go ahead.
Maybe even realizing that they didn't necessarily need her vote, but they needed her vote not to be the others, their side. So as long as she had a stray vote, there's no loss from that. I don't know.
Because it would have been a tie. I mean, if she would have voted with Alex and Mark and who was the last one? Alex, Mark, and who was the last one?
Yep.
Good question. Now we can't remember, even though we just literally watched it a minute
Sarah,
ago.
right?
Sarah. Yeah. She got voted off. Right. So Alex, Mark, Sarah, and Riri, that would have been against Jaden, Eden, Caroline, and Kitty. They would have tied and they would have had to revote and then they would have gone to rocks.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. So as long as she's don't vote for us or don't vote against us, then she was fine. But
what do you think would have happened if they would have tied 4-4? You think they would have gone to rocks? Do you think Jaden? I mean, I think if Jaden got voted off, I don't think he'd really care very much, to be honest. I don't know if he's in it for the money. I think
he's hungry,
might just be.
so.
Yeah, he's like, oh, cool. He'd be like, thanks, guys. You know, he'd be like, yeah. So I don't know if he would have switched his vote. Because he's like, why do I need to stay by, Kitty and Caroline? These aren't really my people. His people are more so like, he really connected with Winna. It seemed like he did kind of connect with V, but maybe not so much. It seems like Winna's kind of his right-hand guy out of all the people. So maybe he's like a little bit lost, and that's why he's attached so hard to Kitty and Caroline, because he just doesn't have any other lifeline on that tribe. I'd be interested to see if he could team up with like Ferris, or how the Ferris, once they go and he gets exposed to like Caroline and Kitty and all them, will he team up with them?
Well, he's going to have to team up with stronger players to make sure that he has some kind of meat shield around him, right? Instead of the weaker one.
Now only has his Raymond, because Aline's not, Aline's a free agent. And so in Raymond, I mean, he's not a strategic player. He actually did a pretty good job when he was talking to Kelly. I think he did let something slip, or from Kelly's perspective, he let something slip. So she, like, at that moment, or, she's like, oh, Raymond said that they're actually going to vote off Kirby. Right. Mm-hmm. But I actually was kind of surprised, because he was like kind of lying to Kelly a little bit and playing a little bit of a game. Which I
think he's got strategy. I think he showed that in that one challenge where they had the two vases up on the poles, right? And then he faced off with Charles. And I think he definitely has, I think there's strategy there. I just think he's not as socially, comfortable as some of these other people in these social situations. And I think that's, he's got that awkwardness, but I think he's pretty smart when it comes to some things. So I wouldn't count him out as far as strategy goes. I think he does think things through really well. So I think we'll see some surprises from him as far as his strategic play coming up. I did want to get, before we run out of time, we're heading into our last 10 minutes. I wanted to talk a little bit about the challenges and some of the surprising moments that we had in these challenges. I think the first thing that I noticed was the one challenge where they had to pass the ball down the trays, right? And I was really, this is probably bad, but I was really loving how frustrated Carolyn got. She kept screwing it up. I mean, because she's like, she wants to be so in control of everything. And she's always got this little smug look on her face. And then she kept screwing it up. And I was like, karma, lady, that's what it's called. It's coming back to bite you in the ass. So I like that. I have to say, I like that a little bit. Was there moments during that challenge or the other challenges where you were like, oh yeah, good. Like, I'm really glad that happened to them.
I just love how much you love Caroline, like deep down inside. Deep down inside. I think, that definitely was one of those, camp leadership challenges that you run with a group of people, right? To get that marble from one person to another person. I thought that was kind of cool. I'm trying to think back. I mean, Jaden continued to be a beast. And as you said before, I don't know if it was in this podcast or before, but who's the guy, the nerdy guy that's not Raymond? Charles, how he was holding up the two buckets for a length of time. I mean, half of it is mental. I mean, it's a lot of weight. But I mean, if you can fix your arms in the right direction and keep them there, it's basically your grip now that really needs built up. And he carried that for longer than I would. That's for sure.
I was going to say, there's been a lot of challenges where grip strength is really important. Huge. So I'm like, go watch some rock climbers, go find some of those guys and see what they're doing, because they're holding their whole body weight up with like 2 fingers. And you want grip strength. There's so many like that. If I was going to go on Survivor, that's one of the things I would definitely be working on, because there's a lot of things when they're like holding, even though I know it's just their feet on these little tiny pegs, but their hands are on stuff too that are tiny little things. And so definitely work on grip strength. I loved Charles doing both buckets. He had 2 and he wasn't complaining. He was, his arms were a little shaky, but he was just in it. And I especially loved seeing Jaden and the guys on the other side cheering him on. That was just a huge moment for me.
Well, and then Jaden at the end of it, who was doing bicep curls.
I know, at the end. Yeah, he was like, oh, this is nothing. Let's go.
That was awesome.
Jaden is really so Well, Jaden is really so likable. Now that he's kind of gone on and he's kind of grown on you a little bit, he is super likable guy. The other challenges that were kind of interesting where they had to pull the cart over the different logs. Like that was kind of frustrating one. They had the other one where they had to look for the
strong too. Yeah.
The other challenge where they had to go look for the coconuts and then spell out the word. And cool. Then Kelly was like, "Oh, I'm a really good speller." And then Raymond's like, "Kelly, all of us can spell." And then she spelled the word wrong. She didn't know how to spell. They were like the simplest words ever. It was like spell salsa, spell chili. I was like, okay, these are very, very simple words. So that was kind of funny.
Well, she threw the A on the ground because she didn't think she needed
they had to yell at her.
So that was kind of a weird
and Mark
challenge.
Was smart with the strategy. He goes to pass one to Riri, right? He goes to pass it, and then they go after her to get it, and Mark just runs right up and places the winning thing on there, which I thought was really, really smart. Yeah. And I think Kirby is really strong too. And remember in that cart where they had to go over those logs with what did he call it? He said they are Flintstone wheels, which I loved the reference to the Flintstones because that made me happy. I spelled JLP coming in with a few great comments on this set of 3 episodes. But Kirby was really smart because she's like, pull it back, push it forward. Let's get momentum. Right. And that was how they got through it, was being able to do that. Yep. So not only is she strong, but she's smart. Right. She can fix things quickly in her brain to be like, okay, how do I work around this? What's the strategy? What do I do quickly? I have to think on my feet really fast. And then she comes up with things. So mentally very strong, physically very strong.
It was cool to see in that challenge too, at the end when they had that puzzle and they had to put it was just a square puzzle and they had 30 different pieces. That Scotty, who, like I said, you never hear him talk except if he's with Kirby, agreeing with whatever Kirby says. But in that challenge, he saw it. He had the spatial reason. He said, "Oh, make a border and then symmetrical on the inside." And Ferris was like, "Oh, that art degree or that art, finally came into
good use, right?
Yeah, good use, right? Yeah."
And Rachel,
hold on, sorry,
drying off and changing.
Alexa.
Yeah, my wife.
Thanks for piping in. Alexa, what do you think about this?
She's talking to us right now for the next 2 minutes. Hold on.
I love it. I think that the challenges did bring us some fun moments. They're always really great in Australia. I love that they had a spell, even though it was simple words. And tortillas was a great final word because it had a lot of letters. I thought we'd see more words with lots of letters, just to be honestly, because you'd have to do more, it's more searching and stuff like that. But and then you get taco rewards and immunity. So I mean,
Australia's killing it again with these challenges.
I was worried though. I was worried about the taco reward. I'm like, are they going to get a pound of frozen beef? And what was the key? No cans this time. Something's going to be weird that they're going to have to make or cook or find the parts for their tortilla, for their taco bar festival.
Has this ever been explained on Australian Survivor why they prank reward them?
I don't know.
Because in Nina's season, in the last season, they said, "Oh, you win a pizza reward," and they get there and the pizza's frozen, right? It's almost inedible. And and we talked about this on other, episodes where it's you get voted off, but you actually get to go to the other tribe and you get an immunity idol. It's a lot of these, disadvantages are actually advantages. They just make up their own rules on Australian Survivor, I guess.
That's a good point. This is kind of a tangent away from that a little bit, but I did see how the auction is not coming back to season 46. And Jeff had mentioned that the reason being is because it takes way too many moving parts to get those things as fresh and as delicious as it is on that island. And it requires a whole new staff. So I almost wonder if that's a staffing issue. But again, it could be Australians loving to laugh at people. I mean, Australians just want to be entertained. They want to blindside. And maybe it's this whole entire, sucker, you got canned food. That's the Australian way. So.
Right. We're not going to make it easy for you. I do love that about Australia. I love that they're not afraid to be bad guys down there. They're not worried about the social media hate at all. They're like, we're going to play the game we want to play. and we're not going to worry about whatever, because the
Love
bottom line is, and we are happy members of the Tribe Has Spoken over on Facebook. If you're not, I'll give them another shout out because we love them over there. Raquel's amazing. Head on over there and join in on the conversations. But there's always people that just aren't happy. No matter what they do, it's just not, they're just not happy. And so I heard them saying, well, they shouldn't have the auction come back in 46 because they did such a bad job with it at 45. And I'm like, God, I kind of liked it. I thought it was okay. Like, I was just happy they brought it back, but you're never going to find people that are happy with it. So, I mean, Australia's like, yeah, I know you're going to hate it. Good on you. That's the way it is, right? Like, I don't care. So
I'll make one other correction. I'll make one other correction too. We've been talking about like how much they actually win on Australian Survivor, and I looked it up, and I didn't know this, but in Australia they call their currency the dollar. It's the Australian dollar. Did you guys know that? Am I just yeah? Okay, I'm guessing I'm the idiot. And they win 500,000 Australian dollars, which translates into about like 350,000 US dollars. So I just wanted to correct the record on that. Which is like,
what's the tax situation there?
I think Australia has super high taxes.
Okay.
Like they probably walk away with,
that'll be my next Google search after beans and toast recipes that I want to try out before next week.
You don't need to do a recipe.
We got to get some Vegemite. That's like the thing. I've never had it. I got to try it. So maybe I'll try to order some.
I do want to close, at least for me,
sure.
with all three of our winners, our finalists are still in this thing, guys. So we're doing well. We're doing well with the.
Which one of you picked, Mark?
Me.
Did you pick Mark?
Your point.
Bree, you picked Mark.
I picked Mark.
Yeah, and then Brandon, you picked Kitty.
Eden.
I'm Kitty.
Oh, Kitty, and you picked Eden. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
so
picked
we're doing
Eden.
well. We're doing well. The middle-aged mafia is right here. But I want to see from you guys who's not going to survive the next 3 episodes. Who's one player that's not going to survive, and I'll double it up. Who's one player that will survive that's not your winner pick?
I think Scott's going to make it through.
Okay.
He's just a nice guy, and he's not threatening in any way, shape, or form in anything.
Yep.
So I think he'll make it through. Who do I think will go? At least one person I think that will go next.
Yeah.
That's not maybe one of my. I don't know if Mark will make it through. I think we got to remember that he is in politics, and they always survive. They're like cockroaches. So keep that in mind, that even though he's down, he's not out. So I think, I actually think Winna will go.
Okay. Alex?
I think Kirby Ferris, I think, is going to go. Kirby Ferris. I mean, but he still has an idol. So maybe if he can actually play his idol successfully, maybe that will save him. I think Mark might go because I think Alex is a free agent. He sees the writing on the wall. He's go with the flow now. He's like, okay, I just got to survive. So I think he'll team up with the Kitty, the Caroline, the Eden, the Jaden. And I'm sure in the next one, maybe I think either the 3rd episode next week will be the merge, or after that 3rd episode, they'll do the merge, right? So it'll be like, come back next week to see the merge. But that's when, I think you might start to see some of the bigger players. It'll be interesting to see how Valeria plays out, because she's now kind of without an idol. If she gets back with Mark, where are they going to go? Is Winna upset, with them that they voted off Valeria? Charles isn't, because Charles is with that kind of nerd alliance. I don't know if he was included in the middle-aged mafia, but I feel like Charles is very close with the Eden, Caroline. And then maybe they bring in Raymond. And this is kind of what I'm thinking is, like, if they do a tribe swap, is Raymond and Charles going to team together? And then that brings in Ferris to team up with the Eden, Caroline, right? And then they could take on this kind of Kirby alliance. So, yeah, I'm still just seeing Eden as he's in a very insulated position. And his name never comes up, which is just so weird. So yeah, that's what I think. So
what about you, Brandon?
And I think it goes back to say one more word on Eden. I think if he thinks that he is playing the same game as Mark, which he said he does, he saw Mark make the mistake. That means he can lay low until Mark does something better than he does, and that's when he'll have to start playing again if that's who he's comparing his game to. I think Jaden stays in as long as he's on a team that needs to win immunity, and I don't see how Ferris makes it 3 rounds. He has the idol, I know, but I don't see how at this point he makes it. I don't think he has the motivational skills to do anything else unless he is King Tony and he's finding another idol next week. But I'm going to say Jaden stays, Ferris goes.
Interesting. Well, I learned a lot today. I learned about the Australian dollar and how, down in Australia, they get per diem, which is about $35 a day to be on the show. So they are in it to win it, and they're in it because it means so much to them. Where, I think that's what we love. One of the things we love about Australian Survivor is there's such a passion to be in the show. Not that there isn't in the US version, but there's also $1 million at stake, right? It's a big deal. So I think and the social media stuff that goes with it. So I think in Australia, there's definitely that. I want to get through this and show the world that I can do all these things. And I love that about them. I think we definitely, Brandon, I got to call out again, the Sarah Kirby connection. I really like that. I'd love to get both of them on together and talk about that. So I'm going to try to make that happen because I think that would be fabulous to see those two together. They're both strong, really strong, tough, mentally strong, physically strong women. I would love to see those two together in a room. We want to hear what you guys think. Let us know. Get a hold of us. Write in the chat. Let us know what your thoughts are on this season so far. And if we like what you're talking about, we might even bring it up and talk about it on the show. We would love to do that. We will see you guys next week. And then we are just days away from the U.S. version, U.S. Survivor 46, which will be coming out shortly. The 28th of February, and we look forward to that as well. We'll see you guys. Bye.